Hey everyone, please support what I do to help keep Greyhawk alive by subscribing to the channel. Also, please consider becoming a channel member to get early access to videos, exclusive live chats, quarterly adventure modules, and more. Thanks, and enjoy the show. It's been a while since I've continued my series of reading through the World of Greyhawk, and that's what we're going to do today on Greyhawk Grognard. So when we last left off with the Guide to the World of Greyhawk, we were up to the Horned Society. And the Horned Society is actually one of my favorite places in the Gold Box era, 576 era of Greyhawk. Let me just give you a quick little rundown of it. Originally a stronghold of the more organized of the humanoid tribes, the area came under the rule of a group of evil humans some decades ago. And let me just show you. This is the Horned Society here. This is where we're talking about. And the thing about the Horned Society, it used to be under the control of Ayuz. Before Ayuz was captured by Zagig in the God Trap, he ruled over both of these lands, basically. And when he was captured, the Horned Society moved in, took over that half of the southern half of his kingdom, basically. And there's a couple of neat little tidbits we get in here. The association combines the masses of humanoid troops with the organization and powers of humans. Deviltry is the religion of the society, so lawful evil, and its leading hierarch is purported to be an evil high priest of 18th level. Then they say there's some of 12th and 13th level as well, and a trio of fighter lords who are 10th level. And that's an interesting thing right there. It gives you an idea of what the power level in the World of Greyhawk is supposed to be. 18th level is remarkable in this game. 10th level to 13th level, you're a ruler of a kingdom when you're that high, and I think that is a very instructive little bit of information about just what the power level is in AD&D, because that's what this was written for, first edition AD&D, and it gives you an idea. Like today you get 20th, 30th level characters. Back then 18th was just like unbelievable, and 10 to 13 was considered high level, so that's an important thing. Now the mention of deviltry is interesting because later on in one of the Gord the Rogue books, we learn that the hierarchs actually serve Nerul, and this dichotomy has been kind of a point of contention among fans for a while since that happened, because this says lawful evil and Nerul is neutral evil. So which is it? And the compromise that's come about is some of the hierarchs are lawful evil and some of them are neutral evil. I would prefer to land on one end or the other. Personally, I like the idea of deviltry and worshipping Asmodeus and the other archdevils as the state religion. That to me that feels better because it counterpoises. It's a counterpoint against Ayuz, who's chaotic evil and a semi-demon. So you've got the demons versus the devils. I kind of like that dichotomy, personally. It also leads into the idea of the cult of Asmodeus being more powerful than we generally hear about. There's some mentions in the books about the cult of Asmodeus, in the Gord the Rogue books, and I think in The Eyes Have It, or one of the other non-Gygax novels also features it. So it's just I kind of like that thing. It is known that many troops of bandits up from the east frequent the walled town of Molag, and the Horned Society is on favorable terms with Ayuz. We learn that is not the case about Ayuz, because Ayuz greatly resents the fact that the hierarchs have taken over half of his country in his absence. He's feigning goodwill towards them, and saying we can have a united front against Furiondi and Valuna and so forth, when in reality he is steaming and wants to get his kingdom back. And we actually see this in both From the Ashes and later on in the Gord the Rogue books, where he basically does that. He basically obliterates the Horn Society, takes over the lands, and now it's one big empire. Later on, we learn in the published history, after From the Ashes and then the Greyhawk Wars and such, some of the hierarchs did survive, which is really neat. But later on in some of the fan produced material, we learn that the Horn Society as a sort of secret society has endured, presumably with the goal of retaking the land that Ayuz had stolen from them after they stole it from him. So anyway, so that's one of my places I really like, the Horn Society, and it's a great way to start off this one. So next up, we've got the the Ice Barbarians, and the Ice Barbarians are way off there on the Thilronian Peninsula. They're on that northern edge there. Northern edge off to the east here, so it's like the most frigid, remote place in the Flanaess, pretty much. They have a population of 60,000. The Ice Barbarians inhabit the bleak shores of the Thilronian Peninsula's northern and east coast. They raid their cousins to the south, or they will raid Ratic, or they will raid into the Great Kingdom. But their big foe is the Sea Barons. So basically, we talked about this when we covered the Frost Barbarians. It's very analogous to medieval Europe and the Viking era, where you had Sweden, Denmark, and Norway all competing. They're pretty much analogous to that. And in that analogy, they would be Norway, and that way they attack in any direction, or they will fight with their southern cousins, and they'll raid the coasts down on the Great Kingdom down here, or Ratic, which is allied with some of the other barbarian nations. So it's pretty much there's not a lot of detail there because there doesn't really need to be. You get what it is. It's a Viking realm. They're very pretty chaotic. They'll ally with you one day, and then they'll raid your coast the next day. They do set up that nice enemy with the Sea Barons, who are part of the Great Kingdom. But on the whole, there's not a lot there when it comes to the Ice Barbarians. And, like I said, you don't really need it. This would be a really great place to apply that Vikings source book from the second edition, the Green Book. Next up, we've got Idee, which is the county. It's a member of the Iron League. Idee is down here. Down here, part of the Iron League. One of the big things about the Iron League, of course, is that it is an enemy of the Great Kingdom, especially South Province. And let me just go through this real here. When the South Province rose in revolt against the Overking and the Herzog, the nobles and men of Idee were at the forefront. It is most open to attack by the Eridians, and they have a large standing army and fortresses and so forth. And they carry on a brisk trade via the sea lanes with Onwall and Nairon. So, they're doing a lot of sea travel in here, going up north into Nairon and so forth. This is another one. There's not a lot of detail about Idee. It's there because it needs to be there for geography, to fill in the geography. You don't get a lot of detail about it. Later on, along with most of the rest of the Iron League, it gets taken over by the Scarlet Brotherhood and so forth. But on the whole, it's a warm. It's a warm place. That's pretty much the only thing it's got going for it. It's got a because it's so far south, it's got a climate about the same as Florida or South Carolina. So you envision this kind of steamy place with lots of broad, open farmlands and so forth. But it's a pretty major military force because it has to be, because it's continually threatened by the remnants of South Province. Now, next up, and the last one we're gonna talk about today is Irongate. The Free City of Irongate, and this is a major player. This is right here on the map there. It is almost analogous to Greyhawk in terms of its positioning and its importance. It's not nearly as big as some of the other cities. The city itself has a population of 44,000, whereas Greyhawk has 58,000, and the capital of the Great Kingdom has a population of 41. So it's about the same as the Great Kingdom, as Roxy's. But Irongate is one of those places that has been extensively detailed, especially in like Dungeon Magazine and so forth. There's a gate, post-wars, there's a magic gate to the city from the other side of the Flness, so that supplies can be run in there because they're under siege and so forth. They are a major player in the Iron League. Obviously, it's named after the city or the Iron Hills around it. There's a lot of dwarves down there. There's in the pages of the magazines, we see there's a lot of there's like big mega dungeons and things that go down into the underworld and so forth. So it's a big major city, and it would actually you could very easily set a campaign there. Have a lot of adventuring out in the Iron Hills and in the Great Swamp and everything, and then you'd have the big city to come back to. It doesn't really have a big mega dungeon like Castle Greyhawk nearby, but you could easily do that with the dungeons that we know are underneath the city itself. Turn that into the equivalent of the mega dungeon that tentpole experience. So it's definitely worth going. Let me just read through some of it. As the rule of the Overking grew more despotic, the people of the city began to murmur, and the Lord Mayor headed a deputation bearing grievances to the Herzog. These emissaries were thrown in prison, given a mock trial, and executed by ritual torture for the Overking's amusement in 446 CY. That was 130 years before the current year. And that was the event that triggered the revolt that formed the Iron League. They have a strong naval squadron, armored crossbowmen. They can bring up 2,000 heavy militia of high morale and excellent training. These troops are Spetum or Glaive Guisarm equipped and can march in a single day after muster. So we get here a lot of the wargaming roots that Gygax had. And this is actually really well reflected in the later Dragon Magazine articles where, the news from the World of Greyhawk, where he talks about in 577 and 578, the armies are moving. There's a war between South Province and the Iron League, and it's they list troop contingents and where they're moving at and all that stuff, which I just lapped up. I love that kind of stuff, the wargamey kind of things. And this area of the Flness in particular lends itself to that because it does have all these different armies, and there's an active war going on at several points in the timeline. So this is if you're into the wargaming aspect of things, this is a great place to do that. And like I say, Irongate has a reputation as being one of the more interesting large cities because it is a free city, just like Greyhawk, so it has that going for it. So anyway, there we are for today. Just moving through steady, slow but steady. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you enjoying this read through? Kind of refreshing. I got to say, reading through the things specifically, I'm reminded of things that I had forgotten, little details here and there. So it's always good to have the refresher. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Hope you're having a wonderful day and stay safe from Pinkertons. Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.